Welcome to the Smart Nonsense Podcast, where we talk about entrepreneurship, self-development, and challenging norms. Today, we are probably on episode 60. Well, I don't think we'll ever get a hang of that one.
No, we got a
door.
backlog running.
Today, we are talking about The Social Dilemma, a Netflix documentary that rocked our world last night. We didn't watch it together because Henry is scared of me and what I'll do in a dark room.
That and your germs.
True. I'm breathing
I get 'em up.
really
No,
heavy.
it's like we're together all day. I think the last thing we need to be doing is cuddling up all night too. Drive each other crazy.
I hope, yeah. I don't think any of these cameras can pick up my notes. I just got, I got like a bull, a
I
person
saw 'em
riding
right
a
before
bull, sheep in the
This is
background.
graffiti art.
We're trying to design this little background right here. So make sure, oh, here we go. I remember the plug.
Plug it.
Make sure to subscribe so that you can see. I'm going to look at every single camera.
Camera one.
Subscribe to this podcast, Smart Nonsense, so you can see what happens with that wall behind us on YouTube, on podcast. You're probably already there. Leave us a review. Here's what we're talking about. Social Dilemma rocked our world.
Yes.
I'm just, one, I think it's timely as hell because
Yes.
we just released Dunbar. I'm saying we like I'm a part of this.
I like it.
That kind of hurt me inside to say. But you're basically trying to be the antidote to this
That's
disease.
a good word. That's a great word.
I know, right?
That and I say antithesis. Antidote.
You're the antidote.
The
Dunbar
apothecary,
is the
baby.
antidote to this madness that is happening online with social media.
Yeah. And I said this when I pitched it, but all the founders of these technologies, first of all, they're all in the social dilemma, more or less. Any executive that was high up in the founding team, they're all against this stuff. They don't want any of their kids using it. Jardon Lanier is kind of ahead of his time on all this. And
Who is that?
He, if I'm not mistaken, founded like virtual reality, maybe?
Who is this dude? Was in
The guy with the
documentary?
dreads.
Ah, yeah.
So he had a book called 10 Arguments to Delete Your Social Media Accounts Right Now or something. And I read that a year or two ago. And that was like the genesis for this stuff in my mind. He's pretty, I bring him up because I think he and my dad are very, what's the word? I'm running out of the word. I'm running out of words.
Antithesis?
No, and antidote. Very alarmist. Another
Yes.
A word. They're very alarmist about this stuff. I'm more cautious, but yeah. So all of these founders are opposed to it, except for like Zuckerberg.
Mm.
And I think who's the founder of Twitter?
Well,
I think he's more responsible.
why can't I remember his name?
Jack Attack. Jack Attack.
Jack Attack. That guy's just going off. Yeah, I think, Mark Zuckerberg is a robot. We see that. But I think anyone right now, we usually talk about like who should read the book. Look at this Gen Z. Oh,
These are my notes.
I thought
You
you
do
were-
this every time.
You gotta.
I'm just gonna text.
Basically, anyone that's using social media, which is literally the whole world, should watch this documentary. It's a little bit one-sided. Like it doesn't.
Oh,
give-
totally. By 3/4 of the way through, I was like, all right, this is actually propaganda now.
Right.
It's very heavy. It's very heavy. And that's why I say like, because I was watching it with my dad, who's very alarmist about this stuff, and it was just striking all the chords with him. I also don't like this stuff, but it was very one-sided.
Yeah, it's just the confirmation bias. Like,
Total.
Yes.
Total.
yes.
People love their confirmation biases.
That's what's happening, and you're just in these little echo chambers. We talk about it. I don't usually like going into these topics so much, just because I'm just not in that world or try to stay away from it.
Here's why you need to. And it was a quote from the movie, and I tweeted it today. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product.
That was my favorite quote.
Oh, okay. Give it.
Erica,
give it.
you gotta cut out of that. Erica, please cut that.
I went to drop the mic. Dylan came up because he thought I was giving him a fist bump. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. And that's on all your social media accounts. That's why you should care. You said you don't like to get into this stuff. Maybe it's political, but like you're the product, Pop.
At the same time, I'm kind of going towards the other side of like we have businesses that are built off of it. So it's kind of like you have that
True.
dual role.
Yeah,
But-
see, like why I'm not so alarmist about it is because I haven't been on these things for personal reasons for the last, I'd say like year and a half. And that's a big difference. Like we're leveraging these platforms for the tools they are. to like market a brand, I'm not posting photos like inside my house, Woman Crush Wednesday.
I thought you were going to talk about inside your house working out on the floor every day.
Yeah, right.
But that's
like
the thing,
you do.
Right? I forget the people's. There are a lot of people, so I don't remember the names. But the main guy who's eloquent,
Tristan Harris.
Is that him?
Redhead,
grad
beard,
that does magic. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, because he has this ethical technology company,
right?
The Humane Company or something. What do you keep looking at? You worried?
We had so many technical issues yesterday. We had an hour and a half YouTube video for Henry's channel that my mic just dropped the ball. But now I forget what I was going to say about him.
Tristan.
But what the... I hate when you do this to me. We can't be distracted.
What did I do?
You did everything.
I gave you the name. Podcast. You're looking down here at the Zoom. You're worried.
All right. Well, basically, it's alarmist for good reason. And there's this other guy, Tim Kendall. I wrote down his name because he's important. He was at Facebook and he led monetization.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, none of these platforms, I think Facebook was essentially the first, knew how to make money.
Right.
And normally that's like not the business model, it's just grow. But at a certain point, you're like, all right, we got to start returning something. And he looked at all the models, like what can we actually do to make the most money? And it was advertising. Like that's just what every communication company has done for the most part.
It was interesting. They talk about how advertising, for kind of the first time ever, made these big agencies the customers. And we, the people on the platform, were the thing being sold to, right?
Our data is being sold.
I just burped on my mic.
I don't even hear you coming through my headset. This is
my levels
we're
are
changing
low.
The studio every
my
time.
Levels are low.
Oh, true. That's why. So, yeah. Okay. This podcast is absolute nonsense. So yeah, we're the product.
Let me give you another one.
And we don't even know we're the product.
You're getting hot.
I'm getting really hot, and we're not even in the music box. It'll be 200 degrees in that sauna.
Let me give you another one. What I really liked about the movie, the docu live action thing. First of all, it was the mix of live action.
Yeah, that was weird. I haven't seen that before.
It was weird and cool. But then there was also the stuff that was like in the brain, and the stuff happening in the brain was like based in reality. And it was
that wasn't in the brain. That was the company.
That was the company, but like in the person, it was like the inside. They were like in the Star Trek ship.
Yeah.
And they're saying things that are probably founded in truth. So they have this omnipotent vision, and they're looking at the guy, and they're like, "Oh, his calendar says he's on a break. Send a ping. We need engagement. That girl he likes is within radius. Her IP address is within radius. Like, say she liked a photo or something, or suggest her as a friend. That's like real stuff."
It is, and it's crazy because it has so much data, and we talk about big data a lot, but never before has all this information on you. It probably knows about you literally more than you. I know that book that I told you to read was like big data or something from Google's searches. It can basically diagnose people with cancer better than doctors based on
what they're searching.
So it has all this data about what you interact with, what is going to get you coming back to the app more than anything else. And it had like examples of, tagging on Facebook. When you tag a friend, you get an email. It's like, they tagged you in a photo. Doesn't show you the photo.
Why isn't the photo in the email?
So you see, like, it's not meant to just deliver a good for your interest. It's meant to just get you on to sell other people. That's exactly why.
Because if for that example, if the photo were in the notification or in the email, you'd have no reason to go on the platform. And they said like it's so human. You can't see that you're tagged in a photo and not go and want to look at it and engage with it. It's what did they call it? It's positive intermittent reinforcement.
Oh, I just had a...
Do I have to lead this podcast?
I hadn't... Finally does research. I had I think a email about this with me not releasing podcasts on a schedule anymore. It just kind of like pop up in your feed. It's like crows or whatever it is when they get food at random intervals. Then that's what the person at a slot machine is doing.
Yeah.
That's why they're hooked, because they don't know when the next little jackpot's coming.
This is also why people are addicted to email, because everyone in their email is looking out for the good news. Your paycheck came through, this business deal that you're excited about, and those things are few and far between compared with all the junk and the bad stuff. That every time you're refreshing, every time you go on your email, you're playing the slots. You're trying to get that good news. Positive intermittent.
I've been wondering
reinforcement.
is like, it all comes down to the business model. They talk about it in the end. It's just like the business model is the reason why this issue exists. And I don't know if there's a way around that. I mean, they've obviously given it a lot of thought. That was the most elegant solution they came up with. But like,
Yeah, he used the word elegant as their advertising solution. My dad blew up. He's like, elegant. How could you say that's elegant? Like it's just a word. He probably didn't mean it.
I mean, I haven't
Look,
given it a ton of thought. I guess it's like subscriber model, but if you want free, a lot of users.
Right. So this is interesting because talking to a friend, David, when it comes to Dunbar, because our thing is like not selling data, not knowing what you're doing before you know what you're doing, like none of that privacy bullshit. And he had this idea like, we don't have a revenue stream yet. And this is a problem every company runs into. It's like at some point you have to make money. You know, I would love for Dunbar to be free to the world and like change the world. I guess Bitcoin kind of did that. He had this idea of like physical ads. Go back to like the billboard stuff, but maybe in Dunbar's sense, it's like physical events and like really niche things that you can sell to companies that are for good, as opposed to just like for keeping you on the platform. We haven't put any thought into it. I just thought it was
I'm really
interesting.
curious. I'd be
Physical
I guess we'll
ads
see.
is the idea.
I want to read more about alternative models because now it's basically like, hey, this is the model they're based off of. All that's left really is regulation.
Right. And I talk to people about this a lot. Like I love YouTube. It's great. You know, it's free to create on and it's free to consume on. But that in and of itself is not sustainable. Like YouTube and Google, for those reasons, have to make money to make such an awesome product. And yes, it's being used for nefarious purposes. So we do have to figure out how we're... What?
I remembered.
This is why we need light bulbs over our head on the wall, because they just come.
That'd be...
They come.
We get a little button. That'd be so dope. One day
we get a
make
button
money.
and it lights up.
I know. It's just like...
It's like Jeopardy. Whoever,
in class when you raise
whoever
your
buzzes
hand.
in gets to talk.
Yeah. I guess Tristan or whatever his name was.
Tristan. Come on. Tristan.
He was saying like tools in the past, right? You'd have a hammer and it's just laying around, but it's not like calling for your attention.
Right.
Whereas now you get the little notification. We have friends. I turned Do Not Disturb on a while ago, but my mom she'll get a little ding and
my mom
stops her work cold and goes over to the phone for a text message.
My mom sleeps with her phone next to the bed on sound. The sound is on.
Well, is she on call or something?
No. She's like worried about us, I guess.
Oh.
But like, you can't be answering the phone at 4 a.m. We'll call the landline. Like, we still have a landline.
Fishy. I don't like it.
Yeah. Wait, I wanted to talk about that, the ding, the sound. Oh, a hack that I do. Do not disturb all the time. And I have the vibrate setting always on silent. Nobody. So I never get vibrations. And I look at my phone. I'm like, nobody deserves to strip you of what you're doing right in that moment to read something or look at some stupid notification. I'm sorry, but like, you can't get anything
I just saw
done.
a notification
Yeah, right.
pop up.
Let's talk about, because this also happened in the little Star Trek brain. They're like, it was a back and forth exchange, and they're like, activate the ellipses. The freaking ellipses.
You remember Siobhan?
I wrote Siobhan's story.
Siobhan, you might listen to this.
That's fine.
Here's the
Siobhan,
gossip.
what are you doing?
It was funny. Okay, so like texting and driving.
Sorry, Siobhan is our friend Kevin. I don't know. I knew someone named Siobhan, and Kevin was acting like him, and so now he's Siobhan and Siobhan.
We're driving. I don't think I've ever told him about this, so it's kind of like gossipy, but
Bring it up.
It's whatever. He was driving, and like I'm super anti using your phone while driving. I'm like, don't kill me. Don't be self-centered and do this for the person you're texting. And normally, like, you'll check your phone when you get like a text message come in or something. But he was checking his phone because the bubble was there, and he just poked the screen multiple times to keep the bubble alive. I'm like, dude, just wait.
Mid intersection. Yeah, so if that's not a sign that we have a problem, that you're driving and because these 3 dots are lighting up in front of your face, that's a problem. It really is. I don't get texting and driving. I feel like, here's what's interesting. LA, super heavy driving culture. Nobody there texts and drives. At least when I was there and I saw it. You go down the highway in Chicago, people are just like,
That's it. Maybe because they do it so much. I don't know.
They
or
drive
maybe
and they
your
know how.
sample size isn't big enough. But
terrible.
What's interesting to me with our dog Tristan. That's not a with our dog.
It's like Siobhan.
Tristan. All right, that helped me. With Tristan, he has this graph that comes up, and if you're watching a YouTube video, we'll put it right now in the B-roll. But it has this graph of basically
get closer to the mic.
Basically, intelligence over time. God, you got to watch these on YouTube. 2 times speed, though. Don't waste your time with 1x.
Do not. No, get the plugin called like Video Player or something and watch it at 3x speed.
Wow.
Video controller.
Thing.
Speed controller. Video speed controller. It's a Google Chrome plugin.
So 3x speed. You'll see the graph. Pause it. But basically, it's like artificial intelligence over time. It's just going exponential, right? And people are all worried about...
Wait, so it's 6 times. Jesus, words.
What just happened? Interesting.
Computing power
that
has increased 1 trillion fold in the last century. This is what you're talking about.
Right.
1 trillion fold.
And you compare it to how much has the human brain
or the microwave. Right. So first it's like other technology. How much has that improved in the last 100 years?
The car's gone 2 times as fast.
Exactly. A car has gone 2 times as fast. The human brain, on the other hand, over an evolutionary timescale, hasn't changed at all.
Right. It could be tens of thousands of years and it's hardly different. And so you get to this graph and everyone's worried about this top line, like the threshold once artificial intelligence is smarter than the human strengths, like our brain is our strength. Once it is smarter than us, we're screwed. That's what everyone thinks. But what about this threshold, which we've already crossed, when it's stronger than our weaknesses?
Yes.
So now artificial intelligence, it's hacking our psychology, our evolutionary psychology of, we know this is what's going to trigger them. This is what's going to get Henry using the app constantly. And it's just manipulating us. So that's really the threshold that no one's talking about that we should be concerned with.
Another good quote along those lines. There are only 2 industries that use the word users, and it's illegal drugs and software companies. Think about that.
That is cool. Yeah, that was another
drug
epiphany for me. So I think I didn't really bring it all together.
In that vein, sorry.
Yeah.
Tristan was saying you have to remember these things were not designed by child psychologists. They were designed by these brilliant tech engineers. Like
all the same, just 28-year-old white dudes.
All the same 28-year-old white dudes that are really good at hacking things and hacking systems, hacking the human brain. They don't care about your 8-year-old that's got an iPhone.
Unless it's their 8-year-old.
Right.
But they're like, we're screwed. And what's interesting here is you have all this data and all these algorithms that are basically optimizing for your interaction with their app. And even the people at the top don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
Because it's artificial intelligence just improving upon itself at this point. It's just a mess.
2 things in that vein. Oh, I actually like this movie a lot more than I thought. Fake news spreads 6 times faster than normal news on Twitter. 1. Then Jaron Lanier, I thought his name was Jardon. Jardon. Names are tough, and I hate getting them wrong. But Jardon says he did this as something I've never heard before. But he's like, what if when we went to Wikipedia is like the last frontier? Because that is one of the last things that looks the same when everybody arrives on the page. Could you imagine if Wikipedia was running these algorithms to optimize for performance? Everyone would be, disseminating fake news. And that's the world we live in.
And then you look at the Wikipedia model and they're constantly like, please donate.
Yeah.
Please donate.
Yeah.
Please donate.
They don't have enough money.
No one can figure out. That's why it's so important to just figure out the business model, because that's going to affect everything. I think Charlie Munger has this quote, show me the incentive and I'll show you the behavior.
Show me the incentive and I'll show you the behavior.
I love the behavior.
100%.
I love it. Exactly. So the incentive here is just capture attention. Well, the behavior is going to be like creating systems that capture your attention. So
it's also habit from an algorithm's perspective too. It's like, what's the cue? What gets you there? What's the routine that once you're there,
It's
you
perfect.
do? Yeah.
It's literally perfect. Like the ding. That's why it's the first thing. Habits. Yeah. What is it? Charles Duhigg. The Power of Habit.
Oh, I
He's
don't
the
even
author.
know.
Yeah. He says cue, then was it action and
Routine and reward.
I haven't read it in a little bit. But basically the cue is always going to be that ding. So if you turn off the ding, you turn off the vibrate, except for you can do like contacts only calls. That's all I have it for. Then you're not going to get anything that's on an emergency, basically.
It's so interesting too, because growing up with this stuff and responding to all those dings, and I used to pride myself in being so responsive, so quick. Now that everything's on silent all the time, I get on my phone and I'm like, whoa, so much time has passed. Look at all these things that have stacked up, messages and notification stuff. But it's good because you can separate the flow work, the important stuff, from, okay, now I'll spend 10 minutes on my phone getting through this stuff.
So I was thinking, trying to implement, maybe I don't want to get there. I realize I don't want to get there yet.
Why?
Because you brought up Wikipedia, and like everyone sees the same Wikipedia. The problem is there's recommendations. And recommendations show you what you tend to like. So guess what happens? You see a lot of what you tend to like.
Yeah.
And not a lot of the shit you really need to see.
Yeah.
So that's why I always talk about the blessing of having a family that one side is super Democrat, one's super Republican, or just left and right. So I see everything accidentally just because they're my friends. But it gives me like, oh, okay, I don't know. The right's always, I laugh at their shit. It's a lot funnier to me. So I think I can't avoid that. The left is super like cerebral, like smart, like you should do this. It's very like moral argument. The right's just fucking around.
It's the righteous mind.
But
It's all about morality.
And most people don't have that
Hey,
privilege.
Haight was in this movie.
I
Jonathan
know.
Haight.
I was psyched. I'm like, he talked about his 3 solutions too. We'll get to that.
Okay.
We covered it in, I don't know what episode it was, but we'll link it in the show notes. I think that is the underlying problem that I didn't really think about before, was the potential damage that this polarization has done. Because it has the graph, maybe we'll try and find some B-roll or something, but the graph of polarization over time. And you can map anything onto the start of social media in like 2010. Yeah. Whether it's the suicide rate for girls and boys just almost doubling, basically, for girls, I think it was. And same thing here with polarization. Right when it comes up, you see the left and the right just splitting apart. Mm-hmm. This massive
Ezra
divide.
Klein wrote a great book about this called Why We're Polarized. And it's a lot of that stuff.
Hey, you read a lot, huh?
Sometimes. Sometimes.
So that's what I wasn't really thinking of, like this. I don't know. I'm just not in the world as much. Like I don't follow news or anything like that, like we've talked about. So I just don't see on the ground as much polarization other than these clowns honking for the last week straight for 4 hours for Mexican Independence Day.
What does that have to do with polarization? It's just a holiday.
It's just like downtown Chicago is a little chaotic.
Okay.
Like that's my closest because I'm not really paying attention to the issues. I just scroll through it or get off it. But now I realize if people are just getting so worked up about these non-issues that normally we could sit down and talk about, or actually I was reading something where like that used to be the case, but there's also an argument that maybe it's just a scapegoat. Like everyone just like figures out who to kill and they go, I'll go and murder that person. That's like how they release. I don't know. But ideally we can sit down. We don't have schools that talk about debate anymore because we have the safe spaces. That was another one of our episodes. But polarization is the issue. And I guess we get into some solutions. But
the thing too with the algorithms is this was a series at the New York Times called like The Rabbit Hole or something. It's a separate podcast now. I haven't listened to it, but my family talks a lot about it. And what's basically happening is if you spend a lot of time on YouTube, again, that algorithm is honing in its ability to recommend stuff. And each time it recommends something, it becomes, it gets you to watch 5 more seconds, 10 more seconds. And if you're going, let's say you watch some video that's like propaganda-ish or something, like over time, those recommendations will become more and more tailored to you, going in that polar direction, be it to the left or to the right, until you're like just this extremist that's been on YouTube for the last 28 hours and you don't know how you got there.
People don't notice gradual change.
Right.
And it's that always like the frog in the hot water sort of deal. But it's true. Like, especially for anyone born now, they never saw the world before. I can barely remember it. I think anyone 10 years older than us for sure remembers it. But it's even hard for us to imagine, to fathom a world where everyone's not looking at their phones. That's why I love this one image. Maybe we'll find it and put it in the notes too, of them photoshopping out people's phones walking around the city.
Scary.
So I was thinking, like, what can we do? Because I got really riled up. I'm like, I'm fuck this system. You can see if anyone, whoever the creators are, just look what they're doing and do the same shit. Like, they're telling their kids no. We talked about hate, but basically he's like, one, we should outlaw it for anyone under 14, definitely under, like, he'd prefer under 16. But actually, that kind of ties into network effects with Dunbar.
Okay.
But the beauty here is that legislation can have a massive effect if you just wipe it out. Because if your school, no one has it because it's illegal, then it's just not going to catch on. Like, maybe a couple fringe kids will, like,
what's
in,
the it?
have social media in general.
Okay.
So, like, if none of the kids at school have Instagram, you're not going to get it on Instagram because who the hell are you going to talk to?
Nobody's there. Right.
So that's why legislating there. At home, you can just say, like, no phones.
It's so I think he was the Facebook monetization guy. He was talking about how, like, he's cognizant of this stuff. Obviously, he created it, but still, he's like, all right, I'm not going to bring my phone in the bedroom. And then 3 days later, he's like, I could have a little bit of my phone in bed.
Everyone's susceptible.
Yeah.
It's just that's what's interesting. That's why I want to study even more about human psychology. I've done a good amount, but that's the thing that's not changing ever.
Right.
No matter how hard we try, unless Elon Musk with his little what's that?
Hyperloop?
No, it's in his Neuralink. Unless Neuralink comes in, connects us to the computers, I don't even know what that world's going to be like.
I think Kanye just tweeted about that or something. Stay away.
But yeah, so my question now is, like, what other than what we've done so far is going to be important? So do not disturb, obviously. We had this thing in college, the phone pile.
The phone pile.
I love that shit. It was kind of like they had that with the little timer box from Shark Tank.
Yeah, right.
But then the girl
just
breaks
bashed it.
But I love that of, like, hey, we're at dinner. Here's the phone pile.
I think what we need to figure out here is, hate says it, like, kids getting their licenses are down. Kids having sex, using drugs and alcohol for, like, kind of the reasons kids should be doing those things is down, way down. Like, people think kids are rowdier and just, like, more ambivalent about the world than our parents were. No, we're partying less. I'm going to say it again. We're having less sex and doing less drugs. Part of the solution has to be, like, getting kids to do that stuff in person.
That's why I sent you that van life video this morning.
Yeah, I got to watch
MLB it. Guy who's he had like a $2 million contract, but he's living out of his van, just surfing around and just being a hippie. I'm like, God damn, Belky bought his van. I'm like, kind of into that right now.
Yeah.
I think there's a balance.
There's obviously a balance. I bring this up because something about Dunbar or whatever else it is, there has to be some game aspect that gets these 15-year-olds, 17-year-olds coming back and making sure they're going out of their way to hang out in person.
It's funny because you fall victim to the same thing. Like, you want people to come to your app to connect with people, but then it's like, all right, just come for a second and then get off. It's like, it's a very weird little balance you're trying to strike.
Well, yeah, we're like, maybe come to the app, and once you're with your friends, we're blocking your phone or blocking your social media.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Oh, you want to work now?
No.
So you scan your 2 QR codes at the cashier, and that activates
off.
Like parental control, like a gentle nudge. Like, you click on Instagram, it's like, are you sure you want to go on Instagram? You're with a Dunbar right now.
It's funny. I turned on limits on all my apps.
And you hit them all? And you break them all?
Yeah, it's always like, dude, you've been on Instagram for longer than 15 minutes. I'm like, all right, turn it off for the day. Like, as in, like, let me stay on this.
Yeah, ignore limit for today.
I ignore it for the whole day.
It's
every single time.
It's a drug, because when I'm having a bad day and I hit my TikTok limit and it's 9 p.m., I'm like, I just want to watch TikTok. I can have a little TikTok, right? And I click ignore limit for the day. And then I spend 3 hours on TikTok. It's a drug. It's like, I can just shoot up one more time.
The same way we now basically leave our computers here half the time in the studio, which I love.
It's nice.
I'm thinking, like, maybe we just have our little 1 hour block of, like, we use our phone, but then it gets left in the studio or something.
You're
crazy.
gonna get all itchy.
I might.
Here's what's interesting.
I'm already
when I set up this studio, I want it to be a no phone zone, no Wi-Fi zone, ideally. That didn't happen. It can't happen. The fact of the matter is, this is like an incredibly powerful thing. I've made my like money and my individuality and my career on this thing. It's more powerful than how we got to the moon in the 60s.
Oh, well beyond that.
Yeah, you have to just like, we have to learn how to live with it.
It's a tool, and people are running around with guns. Some are going to kill other people. Some are going to kill themselves. But it can be helpful to hunt or to protect yourself, whatever it is. So you just got to learn how to manage the tool. I'm thinking, I was really close to deleting my Instagram, but I'm like, I don't want all my stories and stuff to go away.
Yeah.
It's so challenging.
It's hard. And think about it. Like, I think we're two people that are like, have already walked out the door on social media. Like, we're anti, but we still can't give it up. We can't just let go of that last thread. You know, like, I still have Facebook, I say, so like, I know when people's birthdays are. I can't.
Well, you can download those and put them in your calendar.
Oh, that's huge.
There you go.
I'm still not going to do it. I'm still not going to do it. Because it's FOMO, because we're human beings. We will always think that there's something else out there that we're missing.
So it's a lost cause.
There's another good thing, and then you'll have to take us home. It's not a good thing, but in that Brown professor's book, The Craving Mind, Judd something. It was from a Louis C.K. bit, and he got canceled, so hopefully we don't. But he put it this way. It's like 20 years ago, if I called you fat in school, I would see your face, right? Like, I would see you squirm and maybe you cry, like you don't like it. And for me, that doesn't feel good, right? And then I will probably not call so many people fat. I think this is why, like, we were raised in a good era in elementary school. You call someone fat online and you don't get that feedback loop. And you're like, that felt great. And then they just keep doing it 24/7.
You can have 99% positive, but one negative comes and just destroys you. I was listening this morning to Joe Rogan, and I know you hate Joe because it's like 3 hours long.
Hate it.
But Joe Rogan and, I forget his name, Snowden.
Okay.
What's Snowden's first name? Edward Snowden.
Eddie,
my boy
Money.
Eddie. And he was talking about how now there's so much power in, say, Mark or Jack. I'm talking about Mark Zuckerberg. Or
what
Jack,
the fuck is Jack's last name?
Jack Dorsey.
Dorsey, there it is.
Thank
I kept
you.
wanting to say Conti, but that's a different Jack.
Yeah.
Jack Attack.
So both of them, any of the other major apps you think of, Instagram, forgetting his name, but it's close. It's like Systrom. He's saying how there's so much power now at the top. If you're one of these people, your influence, like, you just like, oh, tweak the algorithm. Like, oh, actually,
dial it up, baby.
Dial it. Mark Zuckerberg can say dial it because he runs the company, and now the algorithm changes. Now more people will vote in Korea or whatever the example was.
This was something new for me. I just gave a sassy little point.
Staying.
Sassy little point. You gotta watch this on YouTube. Russia. They didn't hack Facebook. They didn't hack our election. They used the tools, the advertising tools that were put in place for a really bad reason. They didn't hack anything. They just abused the system that even more than it's already being used for. I thought that was interesting. It was kind of near the end.
Yeah, I think it's a phenomenal production
Oh,
quality.
beautiful.
It was like,
Beautifully shot.
they had the artistic thing. Like, no, when I talk about the thirds in the camera,
Yeah.
and you want like the free space.
Yeah, it was interesting. So most of their stuff was centered, people centered. And the Facebook monetization guy was great because he had these barn doors and then there was this one woman, she was in like the bottom right with the mirror. I was like, how many cameras do they have?
They had like
6.
4 or 5,
Yeah.
6. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So great. Just watch it if you're into filmmaking in general, but it is a little bit frightening. I think the government really needs to step in unless the business model, like there's some new solution, which I want to keep thinking about because it's an interesting little puzzle, but clearly the smartest people can't figure it out. So maybe
the smartest people don't want to figure it out because there's not a good incentive to do so yet. Well, I would argue, triple suicide rates in boys and girls is a
and
good
the
enough
world
incentive.
being, I mean, I don't watch the news, but it seems like anarchy if you're watching a lot of media, especially when you're getting recommended that the world is anarchy. That's why it's like, I'm at home. Life seems normal to me, but then supposedly it's crazy.
And we should probably close out. It can happen to anybody. My grandma has never had a computer her entire life. Now she has this thing called like a grandpad, and she figured out how to use. We we give her the internet on it. And she's figured out how to use Google. And within like 2 weeks, she's become this like fake news disseminator. She like reads reviews. She's like, that has a 1-star review. I can't buy it. I can't like, she does. It's bad.
Well, that's why I think it's almost more people just need this education of here are all the harms. Like you're going to ultimately make your own decision. But I think like it's very clear
maybe it
for
should be a
us.
curriculum in elementary school.
Yeah, like here's how to
Instead of health
elementary
class.
school, even though we're trying to ban it.
Oh, right.
It's so complicated.
But if
I think
you can't
anyone,
ban it, right? Like if you can't beat them, join them. So if you can't ban it, like at least teach about it. And we had a little bit of that. Like they would come in and teach us about cyberbullying. That didn't cut it.
I remember the DARE program. That was a flop.
What did that stand for? Drugs against dudes against. No, we had dudes against destructive decisions. Dad.
Oh, I don't know.
Or something.
I just remember the line and everyone would joke about it. And then I think more kids did drugs just with the shirt on.
But I'm saying we need more kids to do drugs. We do. A little bit.
Oh, just get wild. Be wild in the streets.
Because if you're doing drugs with friends, well, the fact of the matter is you're with friends. And you're learning how to assess risk with friends.
We just got to be social beings. I want to consider, we're going to talk about this more, but I want that little phone pile, just a little safe. We get home, we get like an hour to use it, and then it'll only ring or something for like super important.
I would cry.
people.
I'm not going to lie to you.
I want to do it.
I spend like my entire evening decompressing on my phone.
Well, you're going to have to draw.
Yeah.
We need a backboard, and you're not giving me any creative input. That was the social dilemma. Belky and I were still figuring this out. I think anyone listening right now, do that do not disturb. That's step number 1. You're going to be a lot happier. I love it. I haven't gotten a notification in years.
I've been getting them during the podcast.
I know, you're crazy.